This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Good Monday afternoon. Welcome to the broadcast. If you missed the snow, folks, well, hang in there because we got some coming this week. Kev says by the second half of the week, rain and snow are both in the offering. It's been an unusually mild and dry autumn thus far, so whatever wet or white we can get would be welcome news. Kev, of course, has your work week forecast coming up. Mass deportations, that is our top story at noon today. America's incoming president isn't kidding around when it comes to the immigration crisis. Reporter Haley Jackson gets us started from Washington.
As Mr. Trump gears up to get his cabinet picks confirmed and name a few others to top spots, he's also now, as president-elect, pledging to do exactly what he said he'd do as a candidate: mass deportations, apparently with the help of military resources if needed.
Trump is promising his administration will declare a national emergency over the immigration crisis. Some immigration rights activists argue it could cost up to $90 billion a year to implement those mass deportations. As Team Trump continues to take shape, there are a few cabinet picks that could cause some fireworks during their upcoming confirmation hearings. Correspondent Madeline Rivera.
Trump has been moving at a rapid speed to fill out his administration. Some of his nominees, though, like Matt Gaetz, Tulsi Gabbard, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., are expected to face some tough confirmation hearings.
The president-elect has yet to announce his cabinet picks to lead the departments of Treasury, Labor, Commerce, and Education. President Biden raising some eyebrows in the closing weeks of his administration by giving the green light for Ukraine to attack Russia with U.S.-made missiles. Reporter Keir Simmons has that story from Moscow.
The Kremlin accusing the Biden administration of, quote, throwing oil on the fire. Its spokesman saying approving the use of long-range weapons will represent a new kind of U.S. involvement in the conflict.
This marks a major U.S. policy shift in the closing days of the Biden administration. It comes in response to the deployment of thousands of North Korean troops to the war front. Former U.S. Ambassador Ian Kelly thinks Russia's strongman, Vladimir Putin, is not in a position militarily to respond.
I really don't think Putin wants to take on the United States directly, so I don't think there's going to be a direct military response.
President-elect Trump has vowed to limit U.S. support for Ukraine and end its war with Russia. Tomorrow, by the way, marks 1,000 days of fighting between Russia and Ukraine. China's President Xi Jinping has ordered his army be ready to seize control of Taiwan by the year 2027.
We are in the window of maximum danger. Our Navy is getting smaller at the same time that China has built the biggest Navy in the world, and so we have to operate under the assumption that Xi Jinping is serious.
Former Congressman Mike Gallagher says our Defense Department has 2 years to prevent World War III.
We need to be moving heaven and earth. Donald Trump's Secretary of Defense needs to move heaven and earth to put hard power in Xi Jinping's path before it's too late. And understand that it's not just an over-there threat, it's a right-here-at-home threat.
Gallagher's a former Marine intelligence officer, and he thinks China is by far our biggest threat, bigger than Russia or Iran. President Biden's made history, becoming the first president to ever visit the Amazon rainforest. He did so yesterday while on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Brazil. Mr. Biden announcing a new initiative to save the rainforest.
Some may seek to deny or delay the clean energy revolution that's underway in America, but nobody nobody can reverse it.
The president's comments come as President-elect Trump nominates as his energy secretary a fracking company CEO.
There is no climate crisis, and we're not in the midst of an energy transition either.
Chris Wright is tapped to lead U.S. energy policy in the new administration. In India, the world's most populated country, air pollution is so bad that schools are being shut down in the capital, New Delhi. Construction projects have been halted as well. It's just not safe to be outdoors. Pollution levels in New Delhi are about 50 times higher than what's considered safe. Don't eat the carrots, says reporter Matt Piper.
California-based Grimway Farms is recalling its organic carrots due to a possible E. coli outbreak. The CDC says dozens were sickened in 18 states. One person has died and at least 15 other people have been hospitalized.
The carrots were sold at popular stores like Walmart, Kroger's, Target, and Trader Joe's. Elbow room will be at a premium at the nation's airports over the next several days.
Out of all of the holidays, Thanksgiving is the one that most people travel.
AAA predicting record travel for the upcoming holiday. Aviation consultant Chris Van Cleve.
The nation's airlines expect to set all-time highs, transporting about 31 million people between this Friday and the Monday after Thanksgiving. The busiest days to fly will be Wednesday and Sunday right around the holiday. Airlines are planning for more than 3 million passengers each of those days. Sunday could be the busiest day at airports ever.
80 million of us, U.S., will travel 50 miles or more for the Thanksgiving holiday. Gas prices about 25 cents a gallon lower than they were last year. For the first time in 2,000 years, the Roman Colosseum is back in business. Sort of. Airbnb offering 2 nights of entertainment next year at the world-famous historic landmark.
It's not an overnight stay, but guests will have a tour of the Colosseum and then train in gladiator combat over the course of 3 hours. Airbnb says the event is about preservation, having donated $1.5 million to the Colosseum. Not everyone is happy, however, with at least one former European Parliament member likening the event to turning the Colosseum into a theme park. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
All right, very interesting. Thank you, Tammy. And still to come on the Noon Report, Bills win, brush fire, and winter is coming.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams. Well, the work week started on a rather quiet note. It's going to end kind of messy across the region. We'll have the details in the forecast coming up in 10 minutes.
All right, Kevin, we'll see you then. The Buffalo Bills still celebrating that big win last night over the Kansas City Chiefs at Highmark Stadium. Quarterback Josh Allen sealing the deal with a clutch rushing touchdown late in the fourth. Here's what it sounded like on ESPN Radio.
Allen going to step up in the pocket. Now he's going to take it and run, and he's got the first down and more. 10, 5, and muscles his way into the end zone for an unbelievable 26-yard touchdown run. Are you kidding me? He's a beast with a capital B, and he would not be denied.
The loss, the first of the season for KC, and the euphoria over that big Bills victory is being tempered a bit by the spiraling price tag of their new stadium. Here's Family Life's Mark Webster.
Yeah, the estimated cost of $1.5 billion has been rising like a booming punt ever since. Now $2.1 billion, blamed on rising construction materials costs, higher labor costs, and added design features. Good news for taxpayers, bad news for owners Terry and Kim Pagula. The team's on the hook for those cost overruns. A bill the Bills will pay through an NFL loan program, personal seat license fees, future development around the stadium, and by selling a minority share in the team. The new stadium's still due to open by June 2026. Mark Webster, Family Life News.
Thank you very much, Mark. A contentious recount is about to get underway for Pennsylvania's senior U.S. Senate seat. Mark Harris, lead attorney for Senator-elect Dave McCormick, is suing the Commonwealth over the ballot counting process.
We are concerned about what some of the counties are engaging in, which is clearly an effort to help Bob Casey. There's Bucks County, Montgomery County, who are involved in the unlawful act of counting unlawful ballots.
Less than 25,000 votes separate McCormick and incumbent Democrat Bob Casey, who's refusing to concede. Democratic strategist Brittany Crampsey.
We have the automatic recount for a reason. Bob Casey is not going to lead a January 6th insurrection. He is just waiting for all of the votes to be counted, and we have to let this process play out.
But Republican consultant Christopher Nicholas says there's no way that Casey can make up the difference, recount or not.
Recounts changed tens of votes, not tens of thousands of votes. The only person who doesn't know what's over is Casey and his lawyers.
By law, that recount must be completed by next Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving. New York's clean slate law took effect over the weekend. 13 Wham's Daniel Finkelstein.
New York is now one of 12 states in the country with clean slate laws. Under this new law, people who have criminal convictions can have their records sealed, provided they've stayed out of trouble. They'll have to wait 3 years for misdemeanors and 8 for felonies.
There are some exceptions to the law, says attorney Annalise Vassiani with legal assistance of Western New York.
If someone is convicted of a sex offense or a Class A felony, such as murder, those won't be sealed. And there's also certain instances where if someone is applying for a gun or if they have to get background checked by certain employers who deal with children or the elderly, they may still have their records pulled.
Republican Assemblyman Steve Hawley calls clean slate a free pass for criminals. Governor Hochul praised the law, saying it'll help ex-cons stay out of trouble, find jobs, and housing too. A 60-acre brush fire has been contained on Montage Mountain near Scranton, PA. Local resident Glenn Simpson.
We need rain. Get this fire danger down and get the forests damp again so we don't have this issue.
Much of the Commonwealth is in a drought. Outdoor burn bans are in effect for a number of counties, though some much-needed rain is in the forecast this week. Erie County, New York's Code Blue Initiative has a new lead agency, as we hear from Family Life's Dee Haley.
As winter weather approaches, the effort to protect the homeless community is underway. Those in need of a warm location can go to the NFTA Metro Transportation Center from 5 to 7:30 p.m. to obtain bus tickets to the Code Blue shelter when a Code Blue is called. New this year, Sylvia's House Incorporated is helping lead Erie County's annual Emergency Weather Safety Plan that provides emergency support to people experiencing homelessness during extreme cold weather in Buffalo and Erie County. That includes outreach, transportation, shelter, and a warm meal when evening temperatures or wind chills drop to 32 degrees or below. Dee Haley, Family Life News.
Thank you, Dee. Winter is coming, and PennDOT's still looking for snowplow drivers.
It's imperative that we have drivers to keep our trucks on the road for 24 hours in the event that we do have a winter event.
PennDOT's Vince Greenland.
Right now, we are under that allotment slightly. We would still be able to maintain and do our services that we need, but we would have longer routes, and it's a little bit more difficult for us.
If you're interested in applying to be a snowplow operator, visit the PennDOT website. A Cortland, New York hair salon is making a difference by doubling as a free store for foster kids and their families. Owner Tandra Dumont.
It's all based off donations from the local community for foster parents, foster children to shop for free, and it's also for biological parents who maybe lost their children to the system and have recently regained them back.
Once a month, her hair salon becomes Casey's Closet, named for a close friend that she lost to a drug overdose. And it's personal for Dumont, a foster child herself, who is also a foster parent.
Becoming a foster parent has really touched both mine and my husband's hearts. We want to help all the kids. You know, there's so many children and so many foster parents that don't have a lot of resources, and this really helps. We all need help at some point.
The Cortland Youth Bureau is also helping the cause by providing space for Casey's Closet every month. Lackawanna County, Pennsylvania Boy Scouts are getting a jump on the holiday season by hosting their annual Scouting for Food campaign. It happened over the weekend. Scouts in Troop 34 collected non-perishable food and then delivered that food to a local food pantry.
It's very successful thanks to the good hearts and generosity of the people of the community.
It's great seeing the kids going out. They get so excited when they see a donation. It's pretty cool seeing their excitement.
More than 60 scouts, their parents, and troop leaders turned out for that Scouting for Food event. And Pennsylvania volunteers traveled in style over the weekend to collect toy donations for the holidays.
Every year, a holiday-themed rail car convoy travels through communities in Westmoreland County, Pennsylvania, and it makes stops in various locations to collect toy donations. The donations are for Toys for Tots. That caravan traveled through small and big towns alike on Saturday. The rail cars were decked out and people traveling in them dressed up to bring cheer to the kids at each stop. The group made 10 stops throughout the county, and group leaders say this year's trip brought up large crowds everywhere they went. Brian Query, Family Life News.
All right, Brian, thank you very much. Sports next. It's the 2-minute drill on Family Life.
Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, it was the biggest run of the season for Josh Allen. 4th and 2 on the Chiefs' 26-yard line. The Bills clinging to a 2-point lead. Allen dropped back to pass and saw an opening and took off. Running it in for the score. The touchdown gave Buffalo a 9-point lead with a couple of minutes to play. Kansas City could not respond, and the Chiefs are no longer undefeated. Buffalo 30, Kansas City 21. James Cook rushed for 2 scores, and the Bills defense picked off Patrick Mahomes twice as they won their 6th straight game to move to 9-2 on the season. In Pittsburgh, the Steelers beat their rival in an AFC North battle. The Baltimore Ravens scored on a 16-yard touchdown pass late in the game, but they failed to convert on a 2-point conversion. The Steelers won at 18-16. All of Pittsburgh's points came on field goals. Chris Boswell, 6 for 6, with 3 of his kicks coming from over 50 yards. The Steelers now 8-2 on the season. Baltimore falls to 7-4. At the Meadowlands, the Jets continued to struggle. Anthony Richardson ran it in from 4 yards out in the game's final minute, and Indy came from behind to edge New York 28-27. Aaron Rodgers did throw 2 touchdown passes in the defeat. In the NBA at the Garden, Karl Anthony Towns scored 26 points and grabbed 15 rebounds. He led the Knicks over the Nets 114-104. And on the ice, Jonathan Quick stopped all 24 shots he faced. The Rangers shut down the Kraken 2-0. Alexis Lafreniere and Zach Jones both lit the lamp. That is a look at sports.
All right, Randy, thank you. Still to come, record holiday travel, Trump deportations, and celebrating rural churches.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. According to a recent article in Psychology Today, those who describe themselves as spiritual but not religious, which is over 1 in 5 Americans, are at a higher risk of mental illness compared to the religious and the non-religious. 2 different studies that span the past couple decades found that those who claim to be spiritual but not religious have higher rates of anxiety, irrational fear, general neurotic disorders, and depression. Now, of course, TikTok and YouTube influencers, among others, constantly assure us that it's by looking inside that we find the true path to confidence and to inner strength, including when it comes to religion. However, this expressive individualism, a faith of you be you, follow your heart, be true to yourself, doesn't deliver what's been promised, at least not as well as traditional religious practices do. As it turns out, it's by turning outward and upward that we find a healthier spirituality. Apparently, all of the incessant demands for authenticity have come at the cost of wholeness. In his 1998 book, The Way of the Modern World, or Why It's Tempting to Live as If God Doesn't Exist, theologian Craig Gay offered a prophetic explanation for what we are now seeing. He argued that practical atheism, not to be confused with philosophical atheism, was a defining feature of modern life. Practical atheism is less about God's existence than it is about God's relevance to life. In the modern world of penicillin and airplanes and in vitro fertilization and the internet, Professor Gay argued that God had become increasingly less relevant, even for people who claim to believe that God exists. Seeking control over not just what's seen, but what's unseen, and seeking liberation from traditional religious practices in search of an authentic spirituality, just left bondage, the bondage of anxiety and depression. That stands in marked contrast, by the way, from study after study that finds that religious adherents are happier and healthier. As it turns out, the religion that was handed down from past generations is actually more freeing than the reinvented wheels of modern spiritual imaginations. As members of a community with a rich and storied history, believers find a stable sense of identity and meaning. Rather than restricting us by limiting our choices, the recognition of certain givens about God, about creation, and about humanity liberates us from the meaning-making tasks that have burdened the modern world. Even better, of course, is that Christianity specifically is not only good in this way, it's also true. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint.
All right, John, thank you. Let's head outside next. Kevin Williams.
Here is your family life weather forecast. Our call for this afternoon, intervals of clouds and sunshine. High temperatures will peak in the 50s to near 60. There'll be a spot shower in central New York. Partly cloudy tonight, low in the 30s. Tomorrow, a mix of clouds and sunshine, but clouding up in western Pennsylvania with a shower, high temps 50s. And then on Wednesday, mainly cloudy with showers and high temps in the 50s and near 60. Much colder with rain and snow Thursday and on Friday.
Okie doke, get those snow shovels ready. Here we go. This is the Noon Report. It's Monday, the 18th of November, and I'm your host, Bob Price. Lots to get to today. Thanksgiving Day, just 10 days away. AAA predicting record travel this year. Business analyst Christine Roman.
80 million people on the move, Americans on the move. That's just remarkable. These will be record-breaking numbers, and they're taking the train, they're flying, and gas prices will be lower this year. I think we're going to see $3 a gallon national average by Thanksgiving.
Gas prices are about 25 cents a gallon lower than last year. Ukraine has just gotten the green light from the Biden White House to use U.S.-made long-range missiles to attack targets in Russia.
It's a policy shift from the United States that Ukraine have been pushing for. The decision, European officials say, was driven by the arrival of North Korean troops in Russia. And overnight, President Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., writing on X, the military-industrial complex seems to want to make sure they get World War III going before my father has a chance to create peace.
Correspondent Keir Simmons says tomorrow marks the 1,000-day mark of the Russia-Ukraine war. President-elect Trump took to social media last night to confirm that mass deportations will start once he assumes office in January. America's soon-to-be 47th president says he plans to declare a national immigration emergency and utilize the military to assist in that mass deportation effort. The bench trial of the illegal immigrant accused of murdering nursing student Laken Riley continues today in Athens, Georgia. President-elect Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, is blasting the Biden administration over her death.
If President Trump was president and he did get in the United States and he got arrested in New York for a crime before he committed this murder, he would never have been released to the street. He would have been turned over to ICE. So look, this administration has blood on their hands.
Riley was able to fend off her attacker for nearly 20 minutes near the campus of the University of Georgia last winter. When she went for a jog, her body was recovered in some woods not far from the school. There's a recall today of several brands of bagged organic carrots. These carrots are linked to 40 cases of E. coli. One person's died, 15 others sent to the hospital.
The organic carrots grown by Grimway Farms are no longer on grocery store shelves, but the CDC says they may be in people's homes. The California-based producer supplies carrots to major brands like Trader Joe's, Wegmans, Target's Good & Gather brand, Nature's Promise, Market Side from Walmart, and 365, which is sold at Whole Foods.
Reporter Nancy Chen. President Biden is at the G20 summit in Brazil today.
National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan says this is an important gathering of world leaders.
The G20 is a unique forum. It includes both our closest allies and partners, as well as our adversaries. Pulling this group together around shared challenges is never easy, but we do expect to make some progress, particularly around debt and finance.
In addition, Sullivan says the conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East will be be high on the agenda. Linda Kenyon, Washington.
Donald Trump's calling for an investigation after a pollster in Iowa got out of the business following an Election Day embarrassment. J.N. Seltzer, retiring from the Des Moines Register and its famed Iowa poll. She predicted that Kamala Harris was ahead in Iowa on Election Day. Trump wound up winning Iowa by 13 points. The Christian legal firm Alliance Defending Freedom wants America's top companies to drop their diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Here's Family Life's Sarah Harnish.
ADF Senior Legal Counsel Jeremy Tedisco says Americans send a powerful message at the ballot box. They're tired of DEI policies that pit people against each other based on skin color, gender, or faith in the workplace. There's even a corporate equality index that rates businesses with an inclusion credit score. ADF has collected signatures of 58 of the top investment firms, and together they sent a letter to America's largest 1,000 companies saying, with both houses under Republican control, a Trump-Vance administration will likely take the axe to DEI, and their legal recommendation is ditch it now. Sarah Harnish, Family Life News.
All right, Sarah, thank you. Next at noon, some inspiration for rural churches. Our guest is Professor Charlie Cotherman, a religious instructor at Grove City College and director of the Center for Rural Ministry. Cotherman's talking with Family Life's Greg Gillespie about how our rural churches are doing today.
So one of the things we realized a few years ago when we launched the pilot program in 2019 was that as a Christian liberal arts college in a rural area, we have resources that a lot of the area doesn't have, whether it's faculty or, just connectional power with churches and the ability to convene and bring people together. So we thought, how can we connect college, church, and community for the good of rural congregations? So we started by having affinity groups, help pastors connect with each other that would, kind of resource pastors, but also help us learn about life on the ground in small places and small churches. I'm a small church pastor myself, so I understand some of it, but, every context is different. The other thing we realized over time, one of the resources we had that we found churches really were interested in is students. As the project continued, we found that we could connect students to smaller churches and small places. And this was a beautiful thing where the students would catch a vision for, what the kingdom work God was doing in small places and small churches. And the churches would be encouraged by the kind of youthful exuberance of the students. So those are the kind of two main foci where we're connecting students to small churches and we're also connecting pastors to each other and to our faculty.
Obviously, there is no one-size-fits-all answer to this question, but the broad trends, what is happening in small-town and rural churches these days? What are the biggest issues that are unique to the rural churches?
What people think about when they think of small churches is often older congregations that might be facing questions of their long-term vitality. How do we get the next minister in? Can we find a minister? And that is a segment of the rural church, which is absolutely true. And so we're trying to connect those churches and see what we can do to help in some of those cases. But the other thing I would say is, the rural church in a lot of ways is actually healthier than we think or healthier than the stereotype goes. There are some amazingly vibrant churches in small places. They might be churches of 50 that are vibrant. They might be churches of 350 that are vibrant. I always try to remind people, and especially students who might have a stereotype about rural churches, is that honestly, the rural church there's no one rural church. It's a wide variety, and you can really flourish in a lot of different kinds of settings in rural America.
We're talking with Charlie Cotherman, who directs the Center for Rural Ministry at the Grove City College in Western Pennsylvania. Before we close out with you, Charlie, I want to give you a chance to offer a word of hope to people who are either leaders or members of these kinds of congregations. Can you give us some sampling of churches that have found something that has been very meaningful or very transformational? Where are some signs of hope in the churches you work with?
Yeah. One of the things when you work with churches and students, one of the things that gives me hope is kind of seeing students come back from places like there's a Methodist church in Kane that the students have just really enjoyed working with that pastor, or another one down in Fombell, which is just a little south of Grove City, where they go and they see these churches involved in their community doing like hands-on work. They see leaders who are very much full speed ahead because they believe that God's doing great things. And the students come back and say, wow, this isn't what we actually expected. We expected to just kind of go in and paint some walls and, hear some kind of stories about how things used to be good in the old days, but like God's doing stuff now. And so as we see like pastors who really care, congregations who are doing great work, and then young people catching the vision, I have a lot of hope for what can happen in the region and the rural church in general.
We call this inspiration for congregations. There may be some listeners who are inspired and want to find out more about your Center for Rural Ministry, the research and the projects you've been working on, might want to get connected. Can you give us some information on how people can find out more or get plugged in to what you're doing?
Absolutely. So one of the best ways is to go to our website, www.ruralministry.org. You can find all kinds of things there from our affinity groups. You can apply if you're a pastor or even a lay leader. We're going to launch an affinity group for lay leaders who want to help their churches think through special needs ministry in early 2025. And we're excited about that.
That is Grove City College religion professor Charlie Cotherman. And this is the Noon Report for Monday on Family Life.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. Behind a weak cold front, we look for quiet weather over the next 36 hours, generally fair, dry, and relatively mild. Later in the week, though, an upper-level storm system will arrive with unsettled weather to include rain and snow as we progress through the second half of the work week into the upcoming weekend. Our call for this afternoon, intervals of clouds and sunshine. High temperatures will peak in the 50s to near 60. There'll be a spot shower in central New York. Partly cloudy tonight, low in the 30s. Tomorrow, it's a mix of clouds and sunshine, but clouding up in western Pennsylvania with a shower, high temps 50s. And then on Wednesday, mainly cloudy with showers and high temps in the 50s and near 60. Much colder with rain and snow Thursday and on Friday.
All right, Kevin, thank you. Finally at noon, calling all princesses.
And we'll never be royal.
Today we dig deep and celebrate our inner royal. Here's correspondent Bree Tennis.
It's a pinkies up kind of day as we celebrate National Princess Day. Brought to you by the movie makers behind the 1994 film The Swan Princess.
Beauty and glamour and breeding a match. Princesses on parade.
The creators say this day is really to get you to watch their film, but you can also show princess qualities like being kind and being a good leader. You'll also probably have to brush up on your curtsy. Tiara, optional. I'm Bree Tennis.
No, that's good. I seem to have misplaced my tiara at the moment. Thank you, Bree. That's our world, the world we live in. Monday, November 18th. I'm Bob Price. Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.